What if I told you that picking up a stranger's grocery bag could change your entire life forever? That one single moment of kindness, the kind most people walk right past, could unlock a secret that had been hidden for over 20 years. Stay with me, because this story will leave you speechless.
Alex Carter was 12 years old. He lived in a small, cramped apartment on the east side of town, the kind of neighborhood where the streetlights flickered more than they stayed on, and the walls were so thin you could hear your neighbor's television like it was in your own living room. His mother, Grace, worked 2 jobs. She cleaned offices from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then she went straight to a diner, where she waited tables until 11 at night. Alex barely saw her. Most nights, he fell asleep before she got home. And most mornings, she was already gone before he woke up. His father, Alex, never talked about him. He left when Alex was 4. No goodbye, no letter. Just an empty chair at the kitchen table, and a silence that never really went away. But here's the thing about Alex, and this is what makes this story so powerful. Despite everything, despite the holes in his shoes, despite eating the same rice and beans 3 nights in a row, despite being teased at school for wearing the same jacket every single day, Alex never stopped being kind. His mother once told him something he carried like a compass. "Alex, we may not have money, but we will never be poor in heart." He held on to those words like they were gold.
By the way, did you catch that phrase, poor in heart? In English, we sometimes use the word poor not just for money, but for character. Poor in spirit means lacking courage or hope. But Grace told Alex they would never be poor in heart, meaning they would always be rich in kindness and compassion. Beautiful expression, right? Keep it in your vocabulary.
It was a Thursday afternoon in late October. The sky was gray. The wind had that sharp bite to it that tells you winter is on its way. Alex was walking home from school, the long way, as usual, because the short way went past the group of older kids who liked to make fun of his shoes. He had his head down, hands in his pockets, thinking about whether there was still bread at home, or if he'd have to skip dinner again. And then he heard it. A soft crash, the sound of cans rolling on concrete, and a voice, old, shaky, frustrated. "Oh no, not again." Alex looked up. About 30 feet ahead of him, an elderly man was on his knees on the sidewalk. 2 brown paper bags had split open, and groceries were scattered everywhere. Cans of soup, a carton of eggs miraculously unbroken, apples rolling toward the gutter, a loaf of bread sitting in a puddle. The man looked about 75, maybe 80. He wore a long wool coat that had seen better decades, and his hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from age. He was trying to pick everything up, but every time he reached for one thing, something else rolled away. Now here's something I want you to think about. At that moment, at least 6 other people were on that same street. A woman on her phone. A man in a suit walking fast. 2 teenagers with earbuds in. A jogger. Not one of them stopped. Alex jogged over without hesitation. "Sir, let me help you," he said quietly. The old man looked up, startled. His eyes were pale blue, almost silver, and there was something behind them, a deep tiredness, but also a flicker of surprise. You don't have to do that, son," the man said. "I know," Alex replied, already picking up the apples. "But I want to." They didn't say much after that. Alex gathered everything he could, cradled the bags carefully in his arms, and the old man, who introduced himself only as Mr. Edward, slowly led the way down the street, around the corner, and up a narrow walkway to a small brick house with a green door. The inside of Mr. Edward's house was like stepping into a time capsule. Everything was old but meticulously clean. There were black and white photographs on every wall, a young man in a military uniform, a woman with a radiant smile, children playing in a garden that no longer existed. The air smelled like old books and peppermint. "Just set them on the kitchen counter, son," Mr. Edward said, lowering himself carefully into a chair by the window. Alex placed the bags down gently and started to unpack them without being asked. Cans in the cupboard, bread on the counter, eggs in the fridge. Mr. Edward watched him silently, and when Alex turned around, he noticed something he hadn't expected. The old man's eyes were wet. "Are you okay, sir?" Alex asked. Mr. Edward nodded slowly. It's been a long time since anyone has been kind to me. A very long time." There was a pause. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. "My wife passed away 3 years ago," Mr. Edward continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "My son lives across the country. He calls once a month. Sometimes, not even that. Most days, I don't speak to a single person." Alex didn't know what to say. He was 12. He didn't have the words for this kind of loneliness. But he did something that required no words at all. He sat down across from Mr. Edward, looked him in the eyes, and simply listened. They talked for almost an hour. Mr. Edward told Alex about his wife, Eleanor, how she used to sing while she cooked, how she could make anyone laugh, how the house felt like a museum without her. Alex told Mr. Edward about his mother, about her 2 jobs, about the rice and beans, about the jacket he wore every day. They were 2 strangers from completely different worlds, separated by 60 years. And yet, in that small kitchen, they understood each other perfectly.
Mr. Edwards said the house felt like a museum without her. In English, when we say a place feels like a museum, we mean it feels empty, frozen in time, lifeless. It's a metaphor comparing the house to a museum because everything is preserved, but there's no warmth, no life, no laughter anymore. Powerful imagery, isn't it?
The envelope was old, yellowed at the edges, slightly crumpled. But it was the handwriting on the front that made Alex freeze. It read, "For the one who shows kindness when no one is watching." Alex stared at it. His hand hovered over it but pulled back. "Mr. Edward, what is this?" The old man turned slowly from his chair. When he saw what Alex was pointing at, something changed in his face. The tiredness lifted. His eyes sharpened. And for the first time that afternoon, he smiled. Really smiled. "Ah," he said softly. "You found it. I was wondering if you would." "What do you mean?" Alex asked, confused. Mr. Edward stood up with more strength than Alex expected, and walked over. He picked up the envelope, held it for a moment, like it was something sacred, and then handed it to Alex. "Open it," he said. Alex's fingers trembled as he tore the seal. Inside was a single folded piece of paper, and behind it, a small, hand-drawn map. The letter read, "To whoever holds this letter, you have proven something rare. You have shown kindness without expectation. This map leads to something I set aside long ago, for someone exactly like you. Follow it, you've earned it. Edward and Eleanor Whitmore." Alex looked up, his eyes wide. "I don't understand." Mr. Edward sat back down heavily. "My wife and I, we were never rich, but we saved. Every month, for over 30 years. We put a little aside. Eleanor always said the money wasn't for us. It was for someone who reminded us why the world is still good. We wrote that letter 10 years ago," he continued. "We agreed the money would go to whoever helped me, truly helped me, not for reward, not for recognition, but simply because it was the right thing to do. I've been waiting, Alex. I've dropped those groceries more times than I can count. People walk past. People look away. Today, you stopped." The map led to a safety deposit box at a local bank. Inside was an envelope containing a cashier's check for $25,000. But that wasn't all. There was also a handwritten note from Eleanor, written before she passed. It said, "Dear, kind stranger, I never met you, but I already love you. Please use this money to build a life full of the same kindness that brought you here. The world needs more people like you. With all my heart, Eleanor." Alex broke down. Right there in the hallway of that small brick house with the green door, a 12-year-old boy who had never complained about his torn shoes or empty fridge, finally cried. And Mr. Edward, he put his hand on Alex's shoulder and said 6 words that would stay with him for the rest of his life. "Your mother raised you right, son." So what happened to Alex after that day? Well, his mother, Grace, couldn't believe it. She cried for 2 hours straight when Alex brought the check home and told her the story. For the first time in years, she sat down at the kitchen table, not to pay overdue bills, not to calculate how to stretch $20 through a week, but to dream. They used the money wisely. Grace was able to quit her second job. She was finally home when Alex came back from school. They moved to a slightly bigger apartment. Nothing fancy. But the walls were thick enough that you couldn't hear the neighbors. And Alex finally got a new jacket. But here's the part that matters most. Alex kept visiting Mr. Edward every Thursday after school, without fail. He'd bring groceries, and this time, he made sure the bags didn't break. They'd sit in that small kitchen, drink peppermint tea, and talk. Mr. Edward taught Alex chess. Alex taught Mr. Edward how to use a smartphone, which took considerably longer than either of them expected. When Mr. Edward passed away peacefully 2 years later, at the age of 82, Alex was mentioned in his will, not for money, but for something far more valuable. Mr. Edward left Alex every single photograph from his hallway walls, and a note that said, "You gave an old man his best Thursdays." That was worth more than anything in any bank.
Here's one more beautiful English expression from this story. Mr. Edwards said Alex gave him his best Thursdays. In English, we sometimes attach emotions to specific days of the week. Sunday blues means feeling sad before the work week. Friday feeling means excitement, but best Thursdays. That's not a common phrase. Mr. Edward invented it just for Alex, and that makes it even more powerful. When someone creates a new expression just for you, that's love. So what's the lesson here? Is it that kindness pays off? That you should help strangers because you might get $25,000?
No, absolutely not. And I think Alex would be the first to tell you that. The real lesson is this: kindness is never wasted, even when no one sees it. Even when no one thanks you. Even when you're the one with holes in your shoes and nothing in the fridge. Alex didn't help Mr. Edward for a reward. He helped because his mother taught him that being kind is not something you do when it's convenient. It's something you do because of who you are. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Most acts of kindness will not lead to a hidden treasure or a secret check. Most of the time, you'll help someone, and nothing will happen. No reward, no thank you, no story. But you will go to sleep that night knowing something powerful. That in a world full of people who walk past, who look away, who are too busy, too distracted, too afraid to stop, you were the one who stopped. And that, my friends, is the real treasure.
Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever helped a stranger and something unexpected happened? Maybe it wasn't $25,000. Maybe it was a smile that changed your whole day. Maybe it was a friendship you never expected. Maybe it was just the feeling in your chest that told you, I did something good today. Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I might even turn your story into the next video. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, smash that like button. It really helps this channel grow, and it tells me you want more stories like this. subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss a story. And remember, be the one who stops. I'll see you in the next one.